This is the Coaching Leader Podcast, a resource for modern, busy people leaders like you who know that just directing people simply does not work in the long run. We provide focused skill practice and the relevant thinking models, so you will ask better questions and make your team shine. Freshly served to you by IntelliCoach.org from hot and spicy Singapore.
Hello and welcome to the second episode of the Coaching Leader Podcast. So as I promised to you in the last episode, in this one we will talk about something that's very fundamental to coaching. Precedes anything, any technique, any powerful questions that you might read in a book. What's so important? It is the coaching mindset. The coaching mindset. So, oh no, don't switch off. Don't stop the podcast yet. And you might think, oh no, this is one of those esoteric episodes, academic. I don't want to listen to this. I want to go to those episodes that talk about practical things. I want to know those powerful questions. I want to know what I can say. Stop here. If you miss this part, you will probably never coach well, no matter how many books you read, no matter how many questions you learn. Why would that be the case? What is a mindset? Now imagine for a moment you sort of halfway believed me in the last episode when I mentioned that coaching is a good thing. That there is an advantage in or a usefulness in you going into a room with a team member and not automatically solving whatever challenge they have. So imagine for a moment, you believe that and you think, I will listen to this. I will try this out in my meeting today with my team member in this one-on-one. And you stand outside of that meeting room. You stand outside and you say to yourself, let's try this. I don't really believe in it, but nothing can hurt. I'll give it a shot and I'll just ask a few questions on how this person's project is going, what they think they could do, and only then I'll tell them my plan. My good plan, because I know it's a good plan. But I'll hold back a little bit. So you go into this room, you sit down with your team member, which you have a good relationship with. You ask them about how their project is going, what challenge they face. And they talk and they start talking about the challenges, about delays, overruns. And what you do is, you sit forward, you frown, but suddenly you start feeling nervous. You start frowning as well. And your team member picks it up. They get startled and they wonder what's going on. And I ask you, so what do you think, boss? And here it finally comes. Finally, you got that question, that absolution. You let them talk for a long time. Now it's finally your turn to tell your solution. Have you been coaching in that moment? Or have you been still in a solving mindset? Probably the latter. And there's nothing to be ashamed about. But what happened here is that we technically went into a meeting room, asked a few innocent questions to give a bit of space to the other person, but did we really believe? Did we really believe in them, that they had something valuable to contribute? In this example, probably no. We spent so much time in our career to think about that solution for this problem, for this project, which also will hit your KPIs if it goes wrong, right? So you have a stake in it. You have an interest in making sure it works well. That's why you came in with a good solution. And it would be such a waste not to use it. So in that moment, we actually, I have to say, haven't coached. We have not coached. We have given a bit of an openness, yes. Technically, by grammar, yes, we use questions, but we did not believe in it. And this is really the core of the coaching mindset. It means that we believe that the person in the room in front of us is actually capable to, just to find their own solution, or at least find their own path to a solution that we agreed on. And it really means that you sort of temporarily let go of that leader role, that positional leader role, and you move into a more like a partnering relationship with your team member. I always equate it with like being the co-pilot in the car. Your team member drives, they are in control, and all you do is you guide them a little bit and you help them. And really, coaching mindset also means you want the other person to succeed on their own terms. And that is not an easy thing to switch on. And I use that word switch for a good reason, because it doesn't come very natural to many of us, especially when we, for example, had evidence in the past that our team members were very reliant on our advice, on our solutions, and they were very happy with it. So how could we suddenly move into a coaching mindset? And I really see it as like really a switch, some sort of thing you need to enable in your head, in your mind, right before you move into this room. And you say to yourself, you close your eyes for just 10 seconds and they say, all right, I'll make space. I believe this person in the room might have something very useful to contribute. And I will find out what it is. I want to be curious. And this is really where it comes to. It's the coaching mindset that leads us to become a bit more coach-like in that moment. We want to hold back our solving nature, our solving impulse, but not because we constrain ourselves, but it's pushed aside by curiosity. It's being pulled away by active curiosity, because you switched on that coaching mindset. And what happens in that moment when you go into this room and you ask with serious curiosity and you ask your team member what they think? You will look different to them. People know when you have a sincere interest and when you don't. People will know when something is just waiting in your head to be said, and you're nervous and you're not with them, you're not listening. I've had this boss once, a couple of years ago, that whenever she was in thoughts, her eyes were suddenly, how would I say, glassy? You know what I mean? When suddenly they don't look at you anymore and they were somewhere far away. And I knew that at that moment, as a team member, I just had to stop. No point. So this person was somewhere completely in a different dimension at that moment. People will pick this up, and it's impossible for you to fake. So I've sometimes get feedback from leaders saying, "Oh, coaching feels inauthentic to me. I don't know how to just go into this room now with my team members and pretend I know how to ask all these questions. It looks fake." My observation is very often that people feel inauthentic because they still want to solve and they still haven't yet activated a sincere curiosity in what their people have to say. So it's really that sincerity that makes it authentic. So that's why the mindset is so important. Because when we don't have it and we go into this room with a mindset of solving and we disguise it with coaching questions, we'll come across as inauthentic. We come across as fake. Because people know us. Why would he or she suddenly ask all these questions when in the end of the meeting they anyway tell me what to do? So in that way we sabotage ourselves. And we are probably then part of the problem. Because when we go into this room, we fake being a coach. We ask questions only to later being given the chance to share our own solution. People will learn that, and they will close up. They will not be open to us. So and then we wonder, why don't people share with us? Why don't people share with me? If your underlying idea when you walk into the room is, I have to somehow place my solution in here in this room, then you create it. Then you're part of whatever reaction you get from your team member. It is that simple. So part of what it does as a side effect is this coaching mindset is it switches on empathy. And it doesn't mean you have to be warm and fuzzy and emotional. No, empathy just means to view the situation or whatever project challenge you have from the perspective of the other person. It's a perspective shift, empathy. It has nothing necessarily to do with feelings, with warmth, with fuzziness and all this stuff, which people often equate with it. No, it's a perspective shift, and it allows us to do that when we are going with a switched on coaching mindset into this meeting. We behave seriously just differently. We almost automatically extend trust as a side effect. So it's this behavior that is almost a key behavior to switch that on. And I don't say necessarily that with every team member you can switch it on. So make no mistake there. Maybe in a certain situation, a certain team member is not capable and you need to teach them. You need to help them. And maybe there is one right answer to solve this problem, to how to address and write this one report. It doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. But what doesn't work is to pretend with this solving mindset, you can coach. No. If you want to coach, you need to switch on this mindset. Otherwise, you simply will not have a coaching impact. And that's mostly the reason. And leaders say, they've tried coaching, they've tried what we told them in workshops, that they come back and say, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. I feel inauthentic and I feel uncomfortable with this. It is very often rooted in the fact that they haven't let go yet. That they still want to hold on to control the conversation by steering it, by solving. Because, as we said, moving on to coaching is risky. We don't know where the conversation goes. I ask a few questions. Oh my God, will this other person talk forever now? I don't have time for this. It's risky. So maybe you haven't yet fully embraced a coaching mindset and allowed the other person to really feel they are interesting. And their potential ideas are interesting to you. And you show evidence of one meeting. Maybe you have shown them one meeting. Think about that. Where you came in, there was a challenge. You ask them, okay, what would you do? And maybe they give you a solution. And all you say at the end is, very well, let's do that. Full stop. Think about it for a moment. When have you done that the last time? Or is it more likely that at that moment, you might even add something? And your team member says, this is what I would do. And you say, very well, sounds good. And let me give you this suggestion on what else you can do to make it even better. So in that moment, we elevate ourselves again. We leave our coaching role. And seriously, in our team members' mind, it feels deflating because they lose ownership of what for one fleeting moment was their pure idea. It might have worked. Maybe it was 95% there, but you felt compelled to add your 5% to make it perfect. By doing that, actually reduced the effectiveness of that solution by a big margin. Maybe by 50%, and now they feel they have to share the glory of the idea. So that's really a danger. I want to end this episode with a short suggestion for an experiment. And similar to the example that I just gave, I suggest that before every conversation with your direct reports, with your team members, maybe even with your boss, we'll talk about this separately, with your kids, with your peers, try to put yourself in a coaching mindset. It's one of the most powerful habits you can develop. Tell yourself 3 things right before you meet them. You tell yourself, number 1, I believe this person is capable to have great ideas. And I will go in this meeting, in this conversation, as your partner, not your adversary, not your boss. I'm your partner. Because, and that's the 3rd thing, I want you to succeed. I believe you are capable. I'm your partner. I want you to succeed. If, for whatever reason, you are not able to switch on or to agree with these 3 statements, then frankly, something else is ready to be discussed here. Because if you cannot go into this meeting saying, I want you to succeed, and you're honestly behind that statement, you've got to look at something else first. Because then there's an issue of trust, and I'm sure you agree with me. Why would I not be in a position to really honestly help my team member succeed? Is it an HR issue? Is it a personal confidence issue? How can you rebuild trust in that moment? Because if you cannot agree to these 3 statements with an honest heart, you're unlikely to have the impact that coaching can have. So It's a small thing. It's a mindset. And mindset is really a belief, is something we hold on to. But it has a profound impact because it influences completely. It determines almost the way we act, we talk, we show up. Are we closed or are we open? It's that difference. It's a big difference. I want to end this by saying I have full trust, absolutely full trust. Everyone who listens to this can pull this off. Even if you have not tried this before, you probably have done it automatically in situations, and some you might have not. But from now on, since you listen to this, I really encourage you to more deliberately, put yourself into a mindset where you give the other person a chance and where you really want them to succeed on their own terms, where you give them a platform. Yeah, so that's the coaching mindset, a very fundamental thing and really worth your time thinking about. If it is just 5 seconds or 10 seconds before every meeting, it can be a great amplifier for your success. So go out there, go into these conversations and really make a difference. All the best, and I'll talk to you in the next podcast.
You have been listening to the Coaching Leader Podcast, your resource to activate strengths and coaching skills in leaders. Head over to IntelliCoach.org to check out our blog and offers. If you like what you heard, please subscribe to this podcast and leave a 5-star review on iTunes. Thank you for tuning in.
So here are a few additional thoughts on maybe when coaching does not work based on my own experience. It's more personal, so I thought of just cutting that out and putting it at the end, outside of the regular episode. Many people asked me in a workshop, once they understood, wow, that coaching, that stuff works. It's amazing. I can get things out of my people, out of others within 10 minutes, which I normally take hours for or never get at all. And I asked right away, Mike, can I try this on my wife or my husband? And I'm always in that moment careful. I encourage experiments, but that's a very dangerous one, I tell you why. That's a very dangerous one to do. Because people are smart, they'll figure out when you're radically different somehow, and you're asking them questions that you normally wouldn't. And that's a question to be handled separately anyway in a longer podcast. How do I suddenly from one day to the next introduce coaching? I'm blown away by this now, and how do I introduce this once after I've been a advising leader for 10 years? That's separately, but now let's talk about how we could use it at home. And my personal experience is, I don't coach my wife. And at home I'm not a coach. At least with my partner, because it's something that I usually don't just unlock there. It has backfired a few times. So very often my wife just wants advice. She wants an ear to listen. So she wants someone to listen to her, and that's what we all want from our partners. And maybe let me rephrase that. Maybe it is not coaching itself as a skill of asking specific questions, but it is the underlying coaching behavior of listening that absolutely works at home. But asking certain powerful questions that work in the office, like what makes that challenging for you? Or what could be the positive impact if that problem went away? These are very powerful questions to ask in a coaching context, for example, but you ask them at home to your partner who has never heard you ask a question like that. They will turn around, look at you, frown and ask, what is wrong with you? Why are you asking me this kind of question? And at that moment you think, oh my goodness, I'll never do this again. Yeah, so be careful if you introduce this with your partner or with family in general. It can be useful, but be gentle and don't expect too much. So it is actually helpful to have a leader relationship in that moment, because we can feel free to play a little bit as a leader with the way we interact. We can gradually introduce new questions, new styles. So, but where it is interestingly working was with my kids. My kids don't know that I suddenly changed my style so much, so I've been experimenting quite successfully, and I just wanted to share with you an example of something I've done just in the last few days. So my oldest son, he's in primary 2 here in Singapore. He's supposed to do a bit of homework, a bit of assessment sheets on his weekend. Not many, but he's supposed to do a few, and he has struggled focusing to concentrate on anything for longer than a few minutes. And it's, of course, driving parents nuts, right? What can we do? So a normal response is, let's try to fix the attention deficit problem. Let's try to fix it. Let's try to understand how can we help you to be more focused. But I was looking at one moment last week, I thought of, why not use the coaching mindset here for a moment and let me believe for a moment that my son has a solution in him. He's only 8, but maybe he can figure this out. So I asked him, so when do you find you're focused during your week to do these kind of worksheets? And he shared with me that in the afternoon hours after school, when he's in what we call student care, he gets things done. He sometimes can do his homework there. I've noticed that. We never actually discuss his homework because it's always done. Yet on the weekend, the worksheets that we give him to do, they are troublesome. They're difficult to solve. They're difficult to get done. But I realized in that moment, these homework pieces are not a problem. So I asked him, okay, so let's say I'll make this a weekly thing now. And there are these 5 or 6 worksheets that I actually don't care about when you do them during the week, Monday to Sunday. We'll give you some on Monday, and it's completely up to you when you complete them. And if you finish them before Friday, maybe you're done. And there's nothing for you to do except a bit of correction on the weekend. And he turned at me, he looked at me, and he beamed. And the first thing that came out of his mouth, okay, I will do all 5 on Monday. I said, oh, wow, hold your horses, but make sure you do the other things first that you're supposed to do. Was that coaching mindset, by the way? Maybe not. So I didn't trust him in that moment that he can moderate himself. That was a mistake. Yeah, but I was fascinated by the fact that he was able to have that enthusiasm right in there. I was totally caught off guard. He has never shown me enthusiasm toward these worksheets. It was always something we had to a little bit gently or less gently, help him to get it done. And what happened? Monday passed by. I picked him up on Monday after school, asked him, all right, how did school go? We talk about a little bit and ask him, did you manage to get any of the worksheets done? And he looked at me, yes, Daddy, I've done 2. Look at me, wow, 2, that's nice, 2 out of 5. And he looked at me, yes, I only marked a few that I didn't do, but I finished them. And I was blown away. I was simply blown away. Simply the fact of giving him the ownership of designing the how helped him get it done. So I was way too involved, way too micromanaging in that moment as a parent and telling him how he has to get it done. The goal was clear. Just work through these worksheets because they are necessary for you to prepare for the tests that are coming. But I was automatically way too descriptive and too micro in managing the path towards that. And once I gave him a bit of freedom, he ran. And it's now, Friday? And I can say he has only 1 worksheet left. And he's on track to being free on his weekend, which is a win-win. We have more time to play with him. We have more fun. He has it done. He had probably more focus time. He got better results anyway because he did it on his own, which is more motivating. So I was thinking, why the heck did I not do that earlier? Being a coach, and I never applied it in a scenario that is so close to me. So, and it showed me really how blind we often are in where we direct, where we don't have to. And it's also a topic for another episode to really be crisp, clear on outcomes versus the path towards that, because we direct a lot on the path where it might be negotiable, right? So I thought of just sharing that with you because I found it really insightful on to realize that mistake I've done, or that I simply haven't applied a coaching mindset so clear to me. A coaching mindset in a situation that should have been so natural. I was just blind to it. And I'm sure many people have these kind of spots in their life, these kind of blind spots. And I find this is a kind of learning that can be easily transferred to work. This brought back to me the idea how important coaching is for performance. Imagine that. So I didn't have to do anything. I gave him the ownership to do it. He did it himself. We didn't have to quarrel about it. We didn't have to argue. We didn't have to reinforce. I didn't have to remind him. We had sort of more time for the things that are more important to us. That translates so well to work. That's the value promise of coaching. It gives us more time to focus on the things that really matter and help other people run on their own. Have ownership. So with that, I want to leave you into a good morning, evening, good night, wherever you are, whatever you do. I hope it's useful, and keep on coaching.